Today's guest is William J. Leston. He is a retired fire captain and forester of 35 years. He is also the author of the book Full Contact Kundalini, which is a book about his NDE in 1994, where it eventually led, and what he has learned regarding the true nature of our earthly journey and our connection to an eternal higher consciousness of pure love. Bill, thank you very much for giving me some of your time today. I really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure, Jeff. Thank you.
All right, so one might say that your story is a little fringe for even an NDEer. Can we please start at the beginning of your NDE, and can you explain what happened?
Yeah, I like you said, I had my original near-death experience in 1994, and I was a fireman at the time, and down in Goleta and Santa Barbara area, and we went to a severely ill patient, and there was a flu epidemic going on. All the emergency rooms were full, and a couple of us got it. And a couple of days later, I was really sick, and I ended up in an emergency room, and that things didn't go very well. And I progressed into the intensive care. And the night that I went into the ER, and I went to intensive care, sometime during that night, my blood pressure had dropped out, and I was out for hours. And sometime during that night, I left my body. And the doctors and the nurses, they said, we put you in the Trendelenburg and with 2 high flow IVs, and we hope for the best. And, I was 40 over 0 with a blood pressure. And so anyway, I left my body, and I had this incredible experience. And I was in this star-filled realm. There were beautiful colored stars all around me. And I felt amazing. I felt like I'd been let out of a dark closet, a hot, dark, stuffy closet. And I was this huge expanded balloon, this huge expanded cloud. And I was moving through all these stars as the only thing I could call them at the time. And it felt like somebody was pouring honey all over my brain, and it was running through every nerve. And I was ecstatic, euphoric. And a lot of NDEers, they're coming clean these days, and it's good to see, because they say it felt sensual, it felt extremely, this euphoria that, just this euphoria that you really couldn't contain. So I was flying along and just loving it. And I was not Bill Leston anymore. I didn't want anything to do with his story or the whole thing of being here in this place, in this body. And that's weird to say, because I have had a charmed life. I've had everything I've ever wanted, and I'm probably the happiest person you'll ever meet. And my thoughts while I was flying along was, wow, what the heck was that? That was rough. This earthly visit. That was tough duty. And I was so happy to be released. There was no way I was going back ever. Flying along, and my biggest thing was, how in the world did I forget who I really was? That kept coming up. It's like, this is such a major trick that I was this guy, and that I wasn't who I really was for a temporary time. I'm flying along, and I was thinking about that, and all of a sudden I landed. I landed in a place that was real. It was solid. It had indirect lighting. There were tables there, and it was kind of clinical, kind of institutional almost. And there were beings there. There were these 3 short hooded guys, and they were overjoyed to see me. They were bouncing around and laughing and telling jokes. And And I was looking at them, and they looked familiar, but I was so confused. I was in this place all of a sudden. It was a solid place, and they were asking me all these questions like, oh, what was it like? What did you learn? What can you tell us? And I was just saying, this is so amazing. They look like little elves, and they started giggling, and one of them turned to the others and said, he doesn't remember us. And they all giggled uproariously. And it was like I just got off a roller coaster, and I was home. I was back at the landing with my best bros, and they all wanted to know how was the roller coaster. And it was all fun and light and cool. And then there was this other guy, and he was kind of in charge, and he was this like tall, wispy guy. It's almost like he was made out of vapor or smoke or something. And he had a smile on his face from ear to ear. And when he came close to me, my chest expanded, and I felt like it was going to explode. And it was love. There was so much love from this guy. And it wasn't very organized. There wasn't a lot going on. And they were just like bouncing around and having a good time. And, me being this kind of guy, this, fire captain guy, you got policies and procedures. And so I said, well, aren't we going to go through a review of my life? And this tall, wispy guy just chuckled. He laughed, and he goes, sure, let's do that. How do you want to start? And he just laughed some more. And I told a few stories. I told a few things. I wish I would have taken that Park Service job on that island, and my wife wanted that job. And, a few things like that. No big regrets at all. And then he sort of said, okay, it's time to go back. And I was really shocked at that. I was like, go back. I'm not going back. I'm done with that. I was in my late 30s. I told him, look, I'm almost 40. What good am I? There's nothing more to do. And the three little guys, it was like they were reassigned. They just disappeared. And he came forward, and I felt myself slipping back. And when I told this a few years ago at an NDA meeting, my wife got a good chuckle out of it. But I told him, I said, look, the only people that are going to really be upset is my mom and dad and my wife. And they'll be sad for a couple of weeks, but they'll get over it. And they'll be fine. They're strong people. And he laughed at that, and he said, no, you're going back. And I started back, and it was a descending thing. And I ended up in this place just before I was in my body. I was in this place, and it was pretty dark and dismal. And it was a place right next to where we are in the physical. And that place scared me. It was lonely, and that's where we are. That's where we are in these containers. We're in this place that's pretty rough, and it's on purpose. I've learned. So anyway, I woke up in my body, and I wasn't happy to be there. And there was a nurse there, and and I told her, man, what am I doing back here? I was home with my bros, and from what I could tell, I bought the farm. And she said, honey, you were in escrow, but you fell out, and now you're back with us. So get over it. And these old nurses, they're really something. So I was sad for a few days. Not like depressed or anything, but it was a remarkable experience when you transcend this place. And, the doctor came and he said I was crazy. And I told him my story, and I told my wife and my parents. And then when I got back on duty, I told the guys around the department, and, it sounds like a crazy person. So you just keep it to yourself. And, I dummied up for about 15 years, and I knew it was real. It was more real than where we are now. And, so I just had to, there's a saying, it's called chop wood and carry water. And you just have to get back in your life. And if you're talking to near-death experiencers that are having trouble, you just have to get back in your life and get up every day and chop wood and carry water and go on the missions that you were sent here to do, to experience. And, so yeah, I was quiet for about 15 years. Occasionally somebody who'd lost their wife or a child or something, they would want to talk to me, and I would tell them there is nothing at all to be afraid of, or dying is, we've got it all backwards. It's absolutely wonderful, and it's a trip home, and we're just here temporarily. And so I kept it quiet, and I want to remain in society. If you start talking like that, and that's why I've got a lot of these guys in their 30s and stuff. They're having these experiences, but they're not talking about it because, they got businesses and they've got professions and stuff. So in 2010, I retired, and there's something about that fire department, that shift work, the sleep. With the bells going off, you don't really go deep. And within a couple of weeks of retiring, everything changed with sleep. And I started getting a lot of downloads, a lot of messages. And one of them was to take a look at this book, DMT, The Spirit Molecule, by Rick Strassman.
Right.
And I don't know why I hang out with cops and stuff. You don't read drug books. You don't watch drug movies. It's not your world. You have no interest in it. And that's our culture, that hallucinogenic psychedelics, these are they're drugs. They're for druggies. And I think the complete opposite now. I think these are really serious medicines, and people can do amazing things with things like DMT. The shamans are helping so many people. So I watched the video, and then I bought the book, which is weird. And I read the book, and I got to chapter 13 and 14, and those chapters are called Beyond the Veil. And this is where my world kind of crashed down, because what Rick Strassman was doing, for those who don't know about his work, he was in a university in New Mexico, and he infused DMT into 70 or 80 volunteers. It's a very clinical thing. And then they recorded what these volunteers experienced. And they were coming back, seeing the same hooded entities, and the three short guys, and the taller wispier guy, and that it was light, and it was comical, and that it was fun, and that rocked my world, because I had to literally drop the book, and I left it lay, and I walked around for a week going, what the heck's going on? This was my experience, but from everything I knew, this was some sort of dream or some kind of hallucination. And these guys, in his book, they're all seeing the same thing. And so that got me started, and I kind of went on a quest. And that moves into a whole nother conversation.
First of all, when you initially left your body, did you go through a tunnel and then arrive into this area with stars, or at one point you're in bed and the next point you're in stars?
Yeah, it was about 3:34 in the afternoon when I went into the ER, and I was given some things that it didn't work out very well, and I went out. It was like a morphine type thing, and I went in there with a pressure around 80, and it dropped. It dropped to 40 or less. And I was out cold from then on. And this thing, I'm guessing when I left my body, it was late in the evening. It was midnight or 1 or something like that. Because when I came back to my body, I remember it said something like 3 a.m. on the monitor. And I was noticing my pressure was starting to climb back up. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, there was no rushing sound or shooting through a tunnel or anything like that. I was just there.
Do you feel like you were there longer than 10 minutes? Like, where you felt like you were there for a long time, or do you think it could have been something quick?
I think it's nice. It's cool you use the word quick, because I really think it was just a show and tell for me. It was a seed for me. And then I was supposed to grow into the realization of how big that experience really was. Mm. So, if you want to put time on it, I was there 20, 25 minutes. Mm-hmm. That's just a spitball.
I'm not really clear on what your medical condition was in your body back on Earth. Were you clinically dead, or was just your blood pressure super, super low?
Yeah, my blood pressure was super, super low, and they set me aside and hoped for the best. And as far as having a witness arrest and doctors there and using a defibrillator and bringing me back or anything, those things didn't happen. This just all happened to me, in that fashion,
right?
To where I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing with the NDE. Mm-hmm. The physical body has to be stressed to a point where the spirit will fly. It's an automatic thing. And I really think that things like vision quests and, this ecstatic dance where people, Native Americans dance for days at a time. Mm-hmm. These things are stressing the body to where they do have an experience. Mm-hmm. And I think they figured that out.
I agree with you. And after talking to another researcher, when it's in children, it can be sometimes, she was saying, a defense mechanism to kind of get away from something that's happening too. Let me ask you this. You're the first person that ever mentioned anything about the sensual experience, and I don't need to know the details of that. But I found it also interesting that you said other NDE people, they're not telling the truth or not telling about it. And since I believe you said you've been to an IANS meeting before, and maybe you've discussed this personally among other NDEers. Has anybody ever told you that personally, but they're not saying it publicly?
What I said that NDEers aren't talking about it. I think I was talking about guys in their 30s, and they have an experience, and then they're not going to go public with it because they're a contractor or something, and, right. And you don't want to get the kook label because that's what you get. Yeah. And but the essential, the first time, I mean, what I felt, it wasn't romance or, but it felt like it, and that is really that is a whole subject in itself. When you look at the work of Wilhelm Reich. And and his orgone, he calling prana, he was calling it orgone because it was related to this energy,
right?
And tantra.
I know of tantra too, but I think what my main question is, and I understand that you had it, and you saying men feel it. I wonder, one, is women feel it? Does everybody have this sensation? And two, I've interviewed a lot a lot of NDE people, and nobody's ever said that. So is that something, is everybody experiencing it, whether male or female, and just not saying anything? But if you talk to them, like you talk to one of your NDE buddies and they say, yeah, that happened to me too. That's what I'm asking. Is that going on?
Yeah, that's what's happening.
It is happening.
Yeah, that's going on. And I'll give you a couple examples. And just so, I stay away from that whole, thing also as far as near death and afterlife and all that stuff. But it's a big, the Egyptians were into it, and it was a big thing. But the word tantra, what it says is that our sensual or energies are divine energies. That they're the same thing, and it's that we carry this in our bodies, in our containers. It's a gift. It's a connection with where we come from, and but it's thousands of years of guilt and shame and all this cultural stuff on it.
Right.
But our ancient ancestors, they got together and they had fun, and it was a different vibe. So to answer your question, the first time I heard this, I was at this meeting. And this woman was telling me about this experience she had. And she said, I saw your video on YouTube and I was so happy that you used the word sensual. And she said that she had this thing. She was in a sacred place like Shasta or one of those, high energy places around us. And she said that she could see Egyptian places, and she could see all these different high energy places at once in this like vision. And after she talked about this vision, and she said the strangest thing is how overpowering energies it was. It wasn't about like I said, romance or dating or any of that stuff. It was just this really powerful thing. And anyway, I could tell you a few more stories where people just open up and they say, yep, that's the kind of the inside story. So you're in a great position if you want to ask these, your people that you talk to.
Yeah, I'm going to start asking.
It'd be fun to see how many.
Yeah, I'm glad. I'm going to start doing that. And like I said, I don't want to go... One, I don't want to embarrass anybody or make anybody feel uncomfortable. It's interesting also that you mentioned these kind of experiences, because maybe that also makes the experience so profound, because they're having that emotional release kind of, feeling, that's what even makes it more profound. Also, you said earlier you were unhappy coming back. Would you say you were homesick when you were coming back? Like you felt like you left home and now you're back here again?
Yeah, no, it wasn't about being back here. It was about being pulled away from my true home, which I had experienced. And, that I recommend that to everyone. You get an opportunity to depart the physical self and what goes on with the physical brain, the left brain, and the personality and all that. When you see yourself, experience yourself away from your current physical self, everything changes in your life. You know that this is a temporary gig, and you're here to have fun and to learn great lessons. And you just start cooperating with the universe after that. I'm not sure that I am.
You also mentioned that right before you got in your body, there was this dark place. And I believe you said something that there's a purpose for that. What is that purpose?
So we are here in this earth plane, and we believe we're an individual, and we are cut off from the flow because ultimately we are like drops in an ocean. We're drops of pure light in a sea of pure love. And to go back to that sensual thing, that is what that pure love flow, that is what you're experiencing. So yeah, we're cut off, and this is rough duty. This is to come down here, and we came at these times now. These are warrior spirits that are walking the earth these days, and so I guess the best way to do it is in my presentation. I talk about Edgar Casey, and he would go and visit the Akashic records, and he would leave his body. He lived about 100 years ago. Very famous mystic, just a Kentucky farm boy. He was an incredible mystic. And when he would do readings for kings and presidents and, heads of state. And so when he would do a reading, he would get into this high vibrational state. He'd have a lot of REM, rapid eye movement. And he would find himself a tiny dot, like a dot of light outside of his body. And then he would travel. And he said it was immediately a lonely, dark, scary place. And he knew that he had to follow the light in order to stay safe. And so he would follow this light, and he would start up this stairwell, this winding staircase, and he would travel up several levels, and he would see these robed figures, just like I was talking about. They were short little guys with robes, and they were very dark robes on the lower levels, and then they would get lighter and lighter as he went up. So he would go to the Akashic records, and then he would come back, and he would get inside his body. But he talks about that being this place where we are, right next to us in the physical, as a scary place with a lot of scary things, ghosts, and consciousness that's lost their way, and they give us a lot of trouble in our lives, and we got to find our way around in this, in this environment. And we eventually we start to get a higher frequency about ourselves as we learn, and we start to move up that ladder, that Jacob's ladder that Edgar Casey talks about. So, did that answer your question? That was about the darkness of where we are.
Yeah, you mentioned that, but I think you also mentioned there's a purpose for it. What do you think the purpose of that is?
I'm just spitballing.
That's okay.
I'm just spitballing it here. And
I was going to say, I'm not testing you.
When we descend into physical form, and we take on the energies that are present on the earth plane when we come into life, we didn't, it wasn't all rosy. We took on things that are very challenging. And it might be something to do with family or a handicap or something that we can push against in order for soul growth. Because where we come from, there is, there are no low vibrations. There's no jealousy or anxiety. All that stuff stays here. And so ultimately the purpose here is soul growth and facing, huge challenges.
Right. Once you got back, did you feel like you had any abilities after this? I mean, you kind of mentioned that you started getting deep sleep and you were getting downloads. Did you get any abilities as well?
That's a good question. And I had the ability to it came on slowly, but it was, if somebody didn't have high vibration, good intentions, it was really obvious to me. And like a business deal or something like that. But anyway, and I would get vibrations every few years. I would have this tailbone rattling thing. It's a Kundalini thing, and I believe that the near-death experiencer is awakening or going through a Kundalini, an energy rising type thing. It's happening to them in this life, and that's why I think what you're doing is really cool, because it's a really amazing group, and most of us don't have any idea. But with me, if I got around anything shamanic by accident, which I didn't know what shamanic was, in the 90s and the 2000s, but I would get this very strange vibration. I mean, I would bounce on the ground if I was at some kind of ceremony or something. It would literally shake me, and I always thought, I guess I'm, got Parkinson's or something, and but it would always go away. And that's part of Kundalini, this rising energy that comes up the spine. It's pushing out this energy that we carry from all our past lives, this kind of emotional baggage. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there was that, and then after 2010, around 2012, 2013, 2012 is a really big year. That is when, in December 2012, that is when the Mayans said that it wasn't the end of the world. Mm-hmm. It was the beginning of a new type of human being. It was a human being that was energized. They had more energy from where we come from infused in them, and that was going to be the future of humankind. So yeah, you're seeing this. There's a lot of, I'm one of them, but there's a lot of kids that are walking around and they see a lot of like violet and purple colors, and if they get into a situation where they're in a divine mode, or the whole room can turn into like a purple mist, and these things are occurring. They're real. I know it's unbelievable and impossible, but this kind of thing is real.
You mentioned reincarnation. Do you think that everybody reincarnates, or we come here once and we've learned enough lessons, or we keep coming back, or it's up to the individual? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think we come here thousands of times, and we have many, many lives. Mm. And this is going to really sound out there, but there's I believe there's some caretakers in the earth plane that are helping us quietly. And one of the things, it's coming through in the videos and the movies and some of these shows. And if you ever watch the movie Groundhog Day, mm-hmm. It's a funny movie about a kind of a selfish, self-centered guy, and he's in the media and stuff like that. But there's a big story under there that a lot of people pick up on. And he keeps reliving the same day, and he's miserable after a while. And what the real story is telling is that each day is a new life, and he can do anything you want with that new life. It's, you do as you will. And for many, many lives, he's, Bill Murray, he's very clever, and he's very selfish, and he does a lot of mean things, and he cuts himself in on all these deals. And as these lives are ticking away, he gets tired of it, and then he doesn't want to be doing this, and he starts the whole suicide thing, and he tries to kill himself a whole bunch of different ways. And then at some point, something pops, and he remembers who he really is, that we are these divine beings and we come from pure love. And he starts spending his day doing nice things for little old ladies and helping kids out, and a homeless guy. And the movie is brilliant in that way. And then one day I guess he has that high vibration long enough, he gets to move on. And some people on the internet, they did research, they did the math on all these lives, and he learns to play musical instruments, and he learns different languages, and they put it all together on how much time it would take, how many lives it would take, and they came up with 7,000. That 7,000 lives in order for all the things that he experienced in the movie. And they put the question to the makers of the show, the producers, and they said that they were going for 15,000. And so and these things are everywhere. In the original Star Trek episodes, those episodes are all about our intentions and our motivations and our vibration. And there's so much of what we really are is in these movies, these popular movies and shows. And we all know there's that other end of it where it's just horrible, the violence and the cutthroatness and the reality shows, and you don't want anybody to watch any of it, but the sweetness is there. And we get to choose in every moment. We get to choose, are we going to be fearful, or are we going to live our lives in love and choose love? And that's the whole story. And when we choose those higher vibrations, we start to rise out of this place because we don't resonate with it. So I don't know.
I think that was a great perspective of that movie. I never thought about it in that way. You started to get off a little bit onto DMT. Have you taken DMT yourself or ayahuasca? And if so,
yes.
If so, did you have the same experience that you had when you were out of your body, or something totally different? They
were similar, but I'll just tell you what happened. Mm-hmm. So in 2010, I said things took a turn with the Straussman book. And there came a point I couldn't deny it. And I started traveling to Costa Rica mostly, and just driving around. And I was being led somehow. And I've lots of adventures. And I found this place called Pachamama down in Costa Rica. And it's just a small community of 300 people who live close to the land. And I highly recommend it for anybody to go and stay there. They have different programs, and they're not going to tell you a lot of things, but they're going to put you in a position to where you can experience them and you'll find your own answers. But I met some really legitimate shaman in that area, and one of them is Taita Juanito, and there's a movie about him called The Medicine, and he is the sweetest guy. And so the Straussman book, there was something about the DMT, and I said, well, I got to do this. And, I went into a ceremony in Nosara, and my whole thought was, this is folklore, and it's going to be fun. It'll be fun to talk about. And so I went to the ceremony, and it goes during the night. You get there around sunset, and you set up your stuff, and you have a bucket that you are going to throw up in. And then about, 10 or 11 o'clock, you drink the ayahuasca. And it's an amazing ceremony. It's very powerful. And so I drank it, and I was still pretty unconscious at that time. And I went back to my hooch, or back to my place where you lie down for the night. And it takes about an hour before it kicks in. And right about that hour, I started seeing a lot of amazing things. The whole sky, the ceiling of the pavilion we were in, we were out in the jungle in this covered area. There was 30 of us. And the ceiling just opened up, and there was this giant spiral that was alive. And this light was streaming down at me, and it was indescribable. I didn't want to look away from it. And I woke up over my bucket, and I just purged, and it was like a jet engine. It was like mostly air came out, and it was a roaring discharge. And here's where I'm going to lose a lot of people. But what came out of me, what I saw was this gel, like smoke, like liquid energy or something. And it went off the bucket, and it kind of spread across the floor, and it was bluish black, and that blew my mind. It was like I purged this emotional baggage from several lives of, a lot of traumatic things in several lives. And they call it a healing ceremony just for that reason, that you purge that energy. Because with ayahuasca, you're going to step into some higher realms. You're going to go past the soul and into the higher self. And, we are these huge, amazing beings. And you get to go see those guys, and they will amend your perspective of this world amazingly. And this is why addicts and alcoholics, they'll go one night and they're cured forever because they don't want to let the big picture, they don't want to let the big you, the eternal you, they don't want to let that guy down. So yeah, I drank the ayahuasca I had the purge. Again, you can't take those energies with you into that realm. And then I had quite an evening. I didn't really know what I was doing. I went into it pretty light, and our whole thing is to control our minds. That's what we're here. We're here to learn to choose higher vibrational, make higher vibrational choices. And I didn't know anything about that. So I was fearful, and, that is what poured through me for about 4 hours. It was overwhelming. And the short story on ayahuasca is we have the left brain and the right brain. The right brain's connected to the divine, where we come from, and the left brain is connected here, and it's pretty much 100% of the time in charge. And it's all about facts and figures and my opinion about this and where I stand in my story. And the right brain, that's just creative flow. It's music and art and sweetness and divine love, where we're from. Well, what ayahuasca does is it swaps that brain, and it takes that material world you and ties them up and throws them in the trunk, and the eternal you is driving for a few hours. And it's really interesting.
What I know of the ayahuasca experience, it's pretty much exactly like you say. You end up drinking something. I think it's like a slow release of the DMT, and most of the time people ended up vomiting. And then there's some people that do the regular DMT. I don't know if that's the right way to say it, but I think they just smoke it or something, and immediately you're there, and it's like a 10-minute experience or something, and then it's just over. It's there's no like coming down from it. Have you done the other one too, the more pure version?
No, I haven't. I just drank ayahuasca like a handful of times, and I had a very powerful experience that first time, and I came back 6 months later, and I drank again, and I asked the interview with the Taita before the ceremony, and I asked him, could I take a little bit less? And he remembered me, and he said, you had a heck of a time, and for you to be back here 6 months later. So most people never come back because it's so terrifying. Right. It's a death. it's a death experience. It's the material world personality that we currently are. That guy takes a back seat, and he doesn't go quietly. And that's all the pain and suffering. It's all of this mental thing. So yeah, no, I never did from reading about that. I think that's, if I was a young person, it's a real shock to the system, apparently. And if I was younger, I think I would be inclined to go with that, because, like you said, it's short. It's 10 minutes, and you're going to see, for any of the, I was watching some guys who didn't believe in creation or creator. They were talking to some kids, and they were, what I can't remember what those guys are called, atheist. Mm-hmm. So if you're an atheist and you want to go with the ultimate test, do some of that DMT in that raw form, and your atheism days are over. I guarantee you that. There are beings around us all the time, and it's an amazing place. What's going on here? It's an amazing gift, and DMT can let you see that.
For people who are here that are watching this video and don't know what we're talking about, because I feel like we should have mentioned this earlier. DMT, I think the chemical name is dimethyltryptamine or tryptozan or something like that. But anyways, I believe your brain naturally produces this chemical when you are dying. And you can actually find this chemical in plants and stuff. And I think the ayahuasca is they mix enough plants together and cook up a soup where you're able to ingest it and release it from the plants. But unfortunately, the side effect is you end up vomiting, which isn't pleasant.
The dimethyltryptamine, it's produced in the pineal gland. Mm-hmm. That's what we call our third eye. And at the time of each night when you're sleeping and dreaming, you get a little release of that, and it sends you into other realms where you experience things. This is what sleep's all about. Right. And when you die, you get a massive dose of it, and it rockets the soul out of the body. And that's what the people that are smoking DMT or doing the IV thing, like Dr. Straussman, that's what they're experiencing, is a rocketing out of the body.
I feel like I need to make this statement. I just want to, for my own, I have to make this statement that I'm not promoting taking DMT, or I'm not endorsing it. I'm just talking about it.
Right.
Beyond that, I read about an actual research study that they were doing research with DMT, and there was two things that was fascinating. I think one of them was a lot of these people were seeing entities which they may have considered like aliens, and a lot of these people got PTSD from taking it. And the third thing is, I think there was a whole group of people, which you may already know or kind of mentioned before, a whole group of people all saw the same entities at the same time. I believe, as you were mentioning earlier, the guys in the robes.
I'll just answer this with some fun. The DMT, it's produced in the pineal gland, and the pineal gland is, we're pretty much turned off to it in this times. And that's all part of the script. We're really far away from what we really are, what our ancient ancestors knew about this place and our place in it. And so when you start to awaken out of that unconsciousness, it's called a third eye is opening, third eye is awakening. And the pineal gland is a little tiny, it's about as big as your little pinky fingernail. And it's a little tiny gland, and it's hollow. And it has rods and cones in it. And it has this water, this piezoelectric water, this light-infused divine electricity water in it. And when you get it cleared out and detoxed and spend a little time quiet in nature and let things take their natural course, this third eye, you can start to see things. They start opening in front of you naturally and slowly, so that you don't become fearful, because once you kick fear into your experience, then everything shuts down, and you don't continue to, fear is the brakes. So yeah, that's the third eye opening. And this is what the Kundalini person, the person that is awakening from, the illusion of the material world, they start seeing things, and other realms, other beings. This is very common. This is my world. It's all cool. It's all love. And I could understand when you said some guys went through some PSD, post-traumatic stress, because you go to a ayahuasca ceremony, and there'll be some young guys in there, and they're gonna have fun, and it's a party, and what happens to them is similar to what happened to me, where you just crash into this realm of fear generated by your own thoughts. And in the morning, some of these guys look shell-shocked, and sometimes they don't talk for days, because processing what you actually saw. And that is, I know this might be getting too weird for everybody, but the reality is we are the illusion. The self, this is Buddhism and Zen. The illusion of the material world self is what gives us all the trouble. We don't have to stand up to anybody. We don't have to be right. Just be cool. Look after others. That's kind of what it comes out of that Bill Murray movie, Groundhog Day. Just take care of others and have a sweet resonance to yourself.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you this: do you think that the three elvish guys in the hoods are members of your soul group?
Yes. Yeah. There was this girl who was a channel. She was very, all the elders and stuff said she's very powerful, and she's here in the States now. Her name's Mia. And when I talked to her, she said, I want to channel you. And so she did. And she said, oh my goodness, you've got all these entities around you. She says, you've got all this activity. And I said, that's weird, because I see things, and it kind of scares me. And she laughed, and she said, there are many, many non-physical beings that are helping us along in our journey. Don't ever fear anything. Does that answer your question with entities?
Well, you kind of answered it before. I was asking if those robed figures were members of your soul group, and you said yes. You said it seemed like they got reassigned before you came back to your body. Do you think, even though they got reassigned and you have entities now around you, do you think it's them that are around you, or completely different entities?
I see those. Even as a kid, I saw those guys in my dreams. And at that sweet point between waking and dreaming and sleeping, that's an opportunity to interact with the divine. And as a kid, and my wife said, even when we were young, she said, you just before you wake up in the morning, you're laughing and you're giggling, and you're talking to somebody, and you're trying to open your eyes. And that's exactly what I remember as a kid, and even as a young adult. Yeah, these guys are close to us, and you get close to the other side in that sweet spot between waking and dreaming. If people listening, if they're looking for experiences, when you start to wake up in the morning, before you open your eyes and stuff, just kind of linger there and let it happen. These guys are around. We all have. We call them guardian angels. We call them guides. We call them helpers. They're around everybody. You're never alone. Nobody ever dies alone. There are thousands of beings watching us all the time. And that's what that movie Truman is about. Jim Carrey. where he's in that town, and everybody's like scheming to to put him in these circumstances to where he experiences things. And again, these movies are talking to us, and this is what we're living. We have these souls. They're loving us, and they're hoping for the best. When we meet some of our strongest challenges, the universe holds its breath, just like in that movie, and they're all waiting. Where's he going to go? Is he going to choose love, or is he going to continue with the human thing?
All right. So your book is called Full Contact Kundalini. Where can we find your book at?
You can contact me. I got a bunch of names. I'm sort of updating it right now. But it's I don't charge anybody anything. There's way more going on in this world than making some cash. And so I'll send you a copy.
Well, that's amazing. How do they contact you?
Bill B. Letson56 at gmail.com.
All right, Bill, are you working on any other projects right now that we should know about?
Yeah, kind of. I've been doing these talks with the IONS groups, and the last couple of years, I spoke at the international conference, and I kind of got one more thing to say to sort of wrap up this speaker career, I guess. Mm-hmm. And that'll come out here in a couple months, and it'll probably be some kind of a video presentation type thing. And you and I, we've danced around all these different things, but I put all these dots in a row and connect them, and it's really, really fun. Mm-hmm. So that'll be it for me. And then I'd like to, I've said this before, I'd like to go back to Costa Rica and hang out with those guys that showed me so much at Pachamama, and contribute to their community. So yeah, I'm not going to become any sort of world speaker on this, because my stuff is too unbelievable, too impossible. Currently, a few dozen centuries, it's going to be normal, because we're coming out of the darkness and starting back, climbing back up to golden years, the golden era, like the empires, the Mayans and Egyptians, and back to even Atlantis. And it's a cycle. It's the precession of the equinox. If you go to the conference on precession and ancient knowledge, these are PhDs, and they have amazing presentations. And it's obvious that we descended down into these challenging times, and we're climbing back up now.
I feel like we could talk about so many things. Fortunately, I'm restricted by time, but I mean, there's so much more I want to ask you, and I hope that I can get you back maybe for a part 2. And there are some times I have guests that people are asking me to get him back for a part 2, and I hope you will join me again, because there's so much more deeper things that we could get into.
Yeah, sure.
We didn't get into Kundalini at all. There's even more that I want to ask you, but I'm just short on time. And speaking of time, before we wrap it up, is there at least one last message that you can give to us all?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because this is a cool one. And so the last, I gave a talk to the Santa Barbara IONS, and that was kind of my return trip after I came out of the closet in 2017 or something. And then the lady who runs the IONS there, she sent me all over the country to all these other groups, and I told my story, and it was really fun and really good for me, because I met a lot of clued in people that you're not going to see them on the news or anything, but they have amazing stuff, and it helped me a lot. So I was putting together my presentation for that and for the international conference, and ever since all these things happened, I sleep outside in the deck and look at the stars, because there's something really amazing going on with stars. And so I'm laying there, and I'm in that sweet spot, and I'm thinking to myself, I can actually pull this presentation off. and it looked like I got it, the slides arranged and all that. And I was kind of smiling and thinking about this is going to be cool. And somewhere my consciousness slipped somewhere. I don't remember it at all. But all of a sudden, the whole sky opened up. And this is really going to test you a lot. And the whole sky opened up, and there was this amazing gold woman. And her arms were flying around. She had like these wings, and she was moving them around, and she was overjoyed about something. All I heard was roaring, and the deck was shaking, the bed was shaking, the earth was shaking. And she was just, and I said, whatever's going on here, I'm not going to miss this. And so I looked her right in the eye and made an intention to find out what's really going on. Because like I said, it was just this roaring sound, and her mouth was moving. She was saying something. And I looked in her eyes, and she had the most amazing golden eyes and this whole golden outfit. And she was stoked. She was absolutely overjoyed at something. And I like to think it's something I'm doing or think something I'm saying to help with the climb back to the golden age, and to help people adjust if they're, traumatized by these times. And she was just overjoyed, and she was amazing looking. And then this whole thing just closed up, and everything was quiet. And I thought all the animals had run off, the deer and the geese and stuff, but they hadn't. Everything was asleep. So it was happening in some other realm. And I sat there and I said, now I know why our ancient ancestors called them gods. There was just this power, undeniable power and beauty. And it reminded me, I'm a retired fireman, and it was mostly brush fires. That was my specialty, forestry. And sometimes you get out in those fires, and the thing outflanks you, or you get overrun, and you'll have 70, 80-foot flames just roaring past you, and you're in a safety zone, and the whole earth is shaking, and you can't talk to the guy next to you. And it's like a freight train going over you. And that's what it reminded me of. Just this immense natural power. And I looked in, and the next day I started looking around, gold woman in the sky, and everything came back. Isis, this ancient Egyptian goddess. And supposedly the Isis is assigned to this North America area or something. That's why we have the Statue of Liberty. This is a recreation of Isis, and the Columbia movie logo. And so the other day, I'm wrapping it up. The other day, my wife and we watched Wonder Woman, and it's the new one. And she puts on this amazing gold outfit with these wings, and it just shows all this power. And then she delivers this message to the audience, and it's a message of choice. Are you going to choose to be afraid and reactionary and do all these horrible things to your neighbors that seems to be the plan? Or are you going to choose sweetness and kindness and love? It's right there. I mean, we're being shown what we are, who we are, and that the world around us is incredibly unbelievable. So yeah, there's another movie for you where these things are there.
I think it's great. I mean, that was a great story, message. That's another thing I could go on and talk to you probably for hours. But of course,
likewise.
I am strapped for time. And on that note, Bill, thank you so much for being my guest. I really appreciate it. You were a great guest this evening. I wish you lots of success in your life, and I really appreciate you.
Okay, I appreciate you, Jeff. Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.
Bye-bye. Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.